hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
You know my situation messed up. I got the Coyote Brown shirt on right now. Just, literally, it's probably stained up. It's man, look, like I told y'all, and I don't know like how we spacing these episodes out, but for the listeners, well, we just recorded like 2 nights ago, right? And on that episode, I was telling y'all that that it's just so much going on at my command. Here go Tish right here. What's up, T? You see how as soon as we see you, Tish, you know we greet you, man.
Yeah, that's how it happens, Tish. That's normal. That's normal, Tish.
He don't always be as soon as.
Tish, we're inside of the episode. Like the episode started already, right? And I still stopped talking to greet you.
Oh, it ain't 4:30. It's 4:33. They so punctual.
The episode started already, and I stopped to greet her. For the listeners, we were doing. Tish was pre-producing with our last guest, and me and Damon popped in. 10 minutes later, I had to assert myself to get some type of greeting. You know, we've been sitting here with Sean Johnson for 3 minutes. You pop in, and soon I stop everything and say hi. We need to take you to DRB.
Because you wanted to prove a point, that's why. Because you wanted to prove a point. But there's been times when, it might take a little bit longer, like a minute. I mean, I did go for a minute. I went for a while.
You can tell somebody lying when they start thinking. Hey, hey, Sean, like I said, man, I wish I could be here for this one. Tish, I'm a boom out of this one too, but I just wanted to tell the listener, for outside of the women's symposiums, this is like the first episode that I'm probably gonna miss. And it's the detailer episode, one of the dream episodes I've been waiting for, right? But I'm gonna just tell the listeners, I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot going on. You know, my baby's sick, my wife is sick. Like I said, we just did an episode like 2 days ago, so I missed that. The next day was a hell and bell for my captain. Today is an episode. Tomorrow is change of command. We got a new captain, so it's just a lot going on, like in both sides of my life. The job and actually at home. So tonight, I'm catching a little cold. So tonight, I'm going to go wash some baby bottles out, prep some baby stuff for tomorrow, help my wife out. And I'm going to try to get back down here before the episode's over. But if not, Sean, man, I'm looking forward to hearing a real good chop session between all y'all, man.
Well, if you need anything, man, don't hesitate to ever reach out, man. Like even outside of this episode, if you got questions or just want to chop it up offline, just let me know.
Okay. Most definitely. Hey, Dumbo, you ain't got to rush back, bro. We got this, man. You know
but I just want to be here for it. All right, y'all.
But I appreciate y'all having me for real.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Hey, man, we gonna get right into it, man. First off, like Dumbo said, this is the first episode that Dumbo has been on. So I'm telling you, I know he's gonna be taking it hard, right? He's gonna be thinking about this the whole time. But hey, me and Tish got this, man. Hey, so we gonna start this thing off right, man. I'm telling you right now, man. We gonna get into some, where you from and like the Navy aspect, man. We know you when you came in, how long you been in, and even your rate, man. So let's get into that stuff real quick, man. Like, so, hey, where you from?
Originally, I'm from Germany, so I'm Army brat. Was born and grew up in Nuremberg, Germany. I actually didn't move to the United States till I was 13 years old. When I moved to the States, initially I stayed in Chesapeake, but then moved to Portsmouth. So I was in Portsmouth until I joined the Navy in 2005. And first duty station was up in Whidbey Island. Did 4 years up there. From there, I went to Point Mugu, California. Did 4 years there. From there, I went and did 4 years in New Orleans. From New Orleans, I went to Jacksonville and then back to Point Mugu after Jax. But as soon as I got to Point Mugu, that's when I found out I got selected to chief and my tour got cut short. And I would say about 2-3 months after I got pinned is when I got the email saying, hey, the detailer spot is open. Apply. And I was like, man, they ain't gonna pick me. I just put on chief. They want some seasoned people in there. But I'm a firm believer of, shooting for the stars, and the worst they can say is no. So I applied and ended up getting it. So now I'm in Militant. So yeah.
That's good shit, man. Hey, so you said Germany. You said Germany, man. So how was that, man? When you was You left at 13, so you was there the whole time in Germany?
Yes, I was born
growing up.
So it was, it's different. I was a child still, I left as an early teenager. So a lot of people always ask me, like, so how's life in Germany? I can't really relate it to like an adult life because my experience was as a child. So, and a lot of that experience I vaguely remember, you know what I'm saying? So fun fact, I actually went to a German school first to 7th grade. I was fluent in German, didn't really speak the language when I got to the United States. And I lost a lot of it. But the ironic part is I still understand most of it. It's just speaking the language. I still struggle now to speak the language. But I do want to one day brush up on that and learn that language again and maybe go back to my homeland and visit.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. So as you guys already know, Sean's a detailer, man. So I know you guys probably don't even care about his name. Don't care about nothing. You're probably just kidding. He's a detailer.
Like, get to the meat and potatoes.
he's a detailer. Right. But I tell you, man, I looked at some of your content. Right, man. I love it, bro. You're doing good stuff. A lot of funny stuff, but also you got some real stuff in there too, man. Right, you got some real stuff in there, breaking down some of the meal purge stuff. But I like the skit that you did with the rumors. So, hey, so let's go ahead and get these rumors out of the way. We might as well get them out the way because I'm most definitely, and I've been in the Navy for a hot minute, man. A hot minute. And all the stuff that you did in them rumors, I thought was true.
Yeah, so the rumor aspect, because a lot of people don't realize that the M&A process or detailing process is still fairly new. So I can't remember the exact date, but I think M&A was actually implemented in 2022, 2021 or something like that. So it's still a fairly new process. So the process that people still associate with detailing is still the CMSID mindset. So like it was CMSID. Before that, I think it was Jazz or something like that. But a lot of people still operate off of that mindset. So when sailors go out to their own and ask their own leadership for advice, or they talk to other people who've been around for a long time on how the detailing process works or what their experience was on the detailing process, those people are still referring to an old system and an old process that was in place years ago. So sailors take that and run with it. And that's not the case. And I tell sailors, even like on the TikToks that I make, sailors go in on the comments and I'm like, look, you gotta pay attention or familiarize yourself with the current processes and policies. And I feel like a lot of the CDSs that we're doing now and the detailing trips that we do now, it provides an opportunity for sailors to ask questions, and it also sheds light on the current processes. So like the hidden billets, what's weird is like when you go into M&A, you have like your open billets and your closed billets. The hidden billets aspect from how it was explained to me for the people that actually been in the detailing seat since the CMSID days is that the hidden billets are essentially the closed billets that you see in M&A now. So M&A is very transparent when it comes to that aspect in showing sailors what is actually available today for application and what's going to come or potentially come available in future applications. So when sailors say, I know people that got hidden billets and somebody got hooked up and got put in a billet that wasn't even visible for their rate. And I asked them, I'm like, okay, first of all, when you say a hookup or when you say hidden billets, what is your definition of a hidden billet? Is it a billet that wasn't listed as open? Was it a billet that was listed closed? Or was it a billet that wasn't visible under your rate? Because in M&A, you can actually filter that section. Like you can look at any rate in M&A to see what billets are open and closed. But there's a thing called FAC G and H billets that sailors of any rate can go into as long as they can meet the NEC criteria for those billets. So there are certain situations, policies, and programs that sailors fall under that if we can't get them a valid billet, that's when those FAC G and FAC H billets come into play. And a lot of times when sailors ask other sailors or they fleet temp stalk people, they don't see those aspects. They're assuming that, if this person is in fleet temps, I see this person at this command, their PRD lines up with mine, but they don't realize that the person that they're searching on fleet temps is not even in a valid billet. That person is there for spouse co-location. That person is there because of EFM. That person is there because of medical limitations. That person is there because they don't have a security clearance. You name it. Any type of situation, sailors could be at that command. And if they're not in a valid billet, the chances of that billet even populating for you in your negotiation cycle will be never. So, but yeah, that video was more so to try to showcase and try to nip those rumors in the bud, even though a lot of people do feel like, man, was that video rehearsed? Did y'all, you know what I'm saying? Did you prep the people that you were going to make this video? And in some aspect, I'll be honest, yeah, I did prep them because I wanted to make sure that they didn't have any PII on the screen, because we do deal with a lot of social security numbers and things of that nature. So in that aspect, I made sure that they didn't have any of that stuff up that could be caught on camera. But nobody knew what I was going to ask them. So I wanted a genuine reaction and I wanted a genuine answer for everybody based on today's and current policies and processes.
Yeah, that's good, man. I like how you broke that down, man. So I do. So I guess questions that I have, right? Closed billets, right? Closed billets. Man, sometimes we have like 15, 20, closed billets on there, man. You may have like 2 open. Right. Yeah. Then when we talking with our sailors, they always ask those questions. Those are questions they ask all the time. Hey, why I can't get in none of these billets right here? So what's going on when we have the open and closed billets?
So billets are populated open based on the number of sailors that are in their negotiation window at any given time. So that's why the amount of billets fluctuate each cycle. So the best analogy or best example I can give is, let's say we have 4 sailors in their first look, we have 2 sailors in their second look, and we have 1 sailor that's in their third look. Based on that number, the percentage is outlined as 100% of sailors in their third look are going to populate 1 billet. 55, I always say 50, I don't know how they came up with 55, but 55% of sailors in their second look are going to populate 1 billet, and 30% of sailors in their first look is going to populate 1 billet. So even though I have a total of 7 sailors in their negotiation window altogether, first, second, and third look, I'm only going to have 3 billets advertised. And those billets are the high priority must fill billets. Sometimes PERS 4013 will populate extra billets, especially if we have a large number of sailors in their negotiation window in total. They'll populate extra billets just to see, based on needs of the Navy, to see if sailors are willing to take it. But those high priority must fill billets, that's what drives the amount of billets that populate.
And those hot field billets is coming from pretty much field dates.
Yeah, yes and no, because the field date doesn't necessarily drive a number 1 prize. So pretty much during the scrub phase, that first week is when PERS 4013 actually does their initial set based on the priorities that they have set. That stuff gets sent off to the TICOMs and FRIs for essentially a chop or input to say yes or no, these are the billets that we concur with, or these are the billets that we actually need advertised based on true needs of the Navy. And then in the third week is when PERS 4013 gets that input and readjusts and makes adjustments in M&A for finalization for actual application during the application phase.
Okay. Hey, so we know now, like, mostly everything goes through M&A, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I do know you guys still get those phone calls, right? Not necessarily a hookup, right? But somebody's going to call and say, hey, I didn't get this or I didn't get that. Like, do you guys now, since you got the SIMS program, right? And pretty much everything need to go through M&A for a SIMS program, right? So do you guys got like a direct answer for them now? Like directly, hey, you got to go, everything goes through M&A. It's easier?
I wouldn't say it's easier or harder. At the end of the day, detailers don't control the billets that are advertised. Detailers don't control the priorities that are assigned to those billets. We can only essentially negotiate based on what's actually populated open for application for those sailors. And that's all handled at the placement level and TICOMs and so forth and so on. So when sailors call and say, hey, I applied to this, why did I not get selected? What's going to come up in future? Every detail is different. I'm not going to lie. Not all detailers are created equal. Some detailers will actually let them know exactly why they didn't get selected. And some detailers are very vague and very straightforward. Well, you just weren't the best and fully qualified person for the billet. So it all depends on your detailing style for those people. But yeah, it doesn't make it easier. I guess, yeah, because everything's outlined and available for sailors, and it shows sailors that, hey, everything we're talking about as far as what billets are available and what's not available is literally in the screen in front of you. So if I'm telling you these billets are this is the priority and these are the billets that we have on the board, you can literally log into M&A and see the same information that we see.
Nice.
So you mentioned, like if a sailor isn't selected, maybe it's because they're not the best and fully qualified. What's that criteria? How do they know, like, what's the criteria when they're going to select orders? Because if I know that I'm not qualified for this billet, then I don't want that to be one of my picks. Or should I still pick it anyway?
So the term best and fully qualified is more of like I would say a policy term. There's many factors that we have to consider when it comes to selection. And especially right now with cost being a huge factor because PCS costs were limited on funds. So trying to select somebody that has multiple dependents versus somebody that doesn't have multiple dependents on a cross-country move, sometimes we have to, even if that person that doesn't have multiple dependents may be the command's favorite pick or their number one pick, the one with the least amount of dependents because it's cheaper to move them, sometimes that is a selection determination. So it's kind of, I want to say it's situational, but in general, best and fully qualified will be somebody that meets the billet criteria, meaning they're a valid sailor for that billet. If they're first class, applying for a first class billet. If they have the NECs associated to those billets. There's also where the resume comes into play because that resume speaks to us and the commands that they're applying to on things that aren't readily seen on M&A. So if there's any specific qualifications that sailor has, like for me, I'm an aviation guy. So if a sailor has a CDI or whatnot, I don't see CDI on their actual profile. That's something that they can input in their resume to say, hey, I'm a full systems QAR. I'm a CDI for this work center, to where I can use that as a determination to say, yeah, this sailor may be a best fit for this command because this command is truly struggling for experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of situational in that aspect.
You know what? Hey, so, being who I am and what I talk to sailors about a lot, man, like sound like to me when I be talking to sailors is, hey, if you in the Navy, you need to work your ass off until you get out the Navy, right? Mm-hmm. And I say that because a lot of times sailors change their mind last minute, right? Mm-hmm. Or they'll go a year out and say, I'm getting out the Navy, so you know what, I'm not going to get this qualification. I'm not going to try to shoot for this. I'm not going to shoot for that. But then they change their mind and now they may not be the best qualified for that billet. And then they wonder why they may not get selected. That sound about right?
In some aspects, it sounds about right. But like one aspect that I forgot to mention, like evaluations, we do look at evals on the eval averages. So even if a sailor changes their mind last minute, their evals says a lot. You know what I'm saying? If you have a sailor that's, stroking and they're coming in, granted, everybody gets that little, I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of people get that intro P, but they're moving up in that chain, MP, EP, so far and so on. We see that progression. If we see that they're diligent on meeting those qualifications necessary for those billets that they're in currently when they're making those applications, even if they change their minds last minute, which they're entitled to do so, we do look at all those factors.
Yeah.
So you said you can only see the average of the evals, right? Not the actual write-up and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't see the write-up. I can't speak for everybody's access because there are different access levels that people have. But for the access that I have, I only see like their trait averages and their actual, their summary group average.
Do you think it would be beneficial for detailers to be able to see like the actual evals, or would it just be too much?
Would it be beneficial? It could be beneficial, but in my personal opinion, I think the write-up would be too much. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this how we are advancing sailors now and how is that affecting detailing?
So, because I know right now with SIM and BBA, with me being a TAR detailer, because I'm in the TAR community, SIM and BBA isn't part of the actual TAR community yet. It is. They are talking about bringing it to the TAR community. And there is a current working group in place to, talk about how that's going to be brought into it. When it's going to happen, we don't know. But it's not part of that community yet. But hearing the stories and just listening, because on the detailing side, like we're all on the same floor. So hearing other people talk about it or hearing other people just converse about it, it's a nightmare in some aspects, but in other aspects, I can see how it's beneficial to the Navy and fleet because they're using it as a means to this is my opinion, indirectly force people to do their jobs. Because a lot of people in the past with advancement, they'll advance, they'll just ride their hot 3 out and then they'll separate. They'll never be in the valid billet that they're trying to work in, especially if they're in highly desired duty stations. They would just, I want my advancement, I'm going to just move on out the military. The Navy's trying to focus on getting people the right talent in the right place. And if you're getting paid for this rank, we need you in these jobs that you're getting paid for. So I think that's, as far as how it affects those sailors, I mean, some sailors are separating. Some sailors are saying, you know what, that's not what I signed up for. And in some aspects, sailors are looking forward to it. They're looking, they're like, yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. And they're being very competitive to do so.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, man. It seems like if you hungry, you most definitely can advance in the Navy now with picking billets and where you want to go and those unpopular billets that's out there, right? And you advancing when you go to them. So I do see it, but also I see windows of opportunity for sailors that's, if you're not looking closely at their evals and stuff like that, these sailors are picking billets to become a first class somewhere, become a second class somewhere. And they may not have been one of the top sailors, but they could be one of the sailors that's willing to go to a certain location.
Right.
So I can kind of see it, being a nightmare. But at the same time, though, I think command still see those sailors too, though, right? Command still, I think they take a look at them also.
I mean, because they're competing, they're applying for those billets to advance. So any applications that they put in, it's just like applying during your normal negotiation window. The command see those applicants and they'll be able to, I guess, have a chop on it. But I think I read on the fact that there's a sailor scoring criteria. So everything that sailors have done and what they've accomplished, sea time, evals, and things of that nature, all that stuff gets computed into an equation to determine who's best fit based on those aspects.
I'm glad you brought that up, man. I got a quick question about the scoring criteria. Who came up with that damn criteria? I just want to know, man. just
people that get paid way more than us. A lot of these you know what? This is another rumor because people think that detailers get read aheads and we get all these, we know all this information before it comes out. And then when these nav admins drop or when these changes drop, they blow our phones up with questions that we don't even have the answer to because we're seeing this in real time just as y'all. So I feel like, especially with BBA and SIM, I feel like there's still a lot of head hurdles and hurdles that need to be, gotten over. Which is why there's still so many exception to policies in place. And just my personal opinion, there's no policy if you have an exception to policy. You know what I'm saying? If you have all these exception to policies, then you really don't have a policy. But that's just my humble opinion. But we get bombarded with questions and it's just an ongoing process. And the Navy's very reactive when it comes to a lot of these processes and things that they're putting out. So I don't know. Somebody that gets paid way more than me that makes those decisions may have a better view than I do. But it's a struggle.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead, Tish. You got something?
Yeah. So gap billets. So it doesn't, I'll say in my perspective, I won't say it don't seem like, because some people may feel a different way, but it don't seem like the Navy really that's not a top priority when it comes to filling these billets, because a lot of times in my rate, at least, the billet is going to be gap. So I remember you said that, the detailers don't pick when the billets are advertised. And I remember it seemed like sometimes you just waiting and waiting, my billet still has not been advertised yet. This person need to get here. I already got orders to leave. Or it's one of my sailors is leaving and the billet ain't advertised yet. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. How important is it, and is it rate dependent of like importance? Like, how important is it to PERS when it comes to this billet is going to be gap, so we need to get someone in there before the other person transfers?
I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, so I don't really have an answer for that because that aspect is handled at the placement level. So if you have a gap billet and you really need somebody that, hey, I need bodies, then that's something, a conversation that the command needs to have with their respective placement coordinator, their TICOMs to, see if their billets can be pushed. But at the same time, every command says that they need bodies. Every command says that, oh, we're short bodies. We're hurting for this, hurting for that. So where's the balance of who's going to get what? And like I mentioned before, that we only have so many sailors going into the negotiation window, right? So, and for those hard to fill locations like Lemore's, the Whitby's, and now Cali with cost of living, those hard to fill locations, generally, if those billets aren't populated as the top priority billet, 9 times out of 10, sellers are going to, go the path of least resistance. So if they're seeing, okay, Lemoore, and then they have Jacksonville, they're going to pick Jacksonville. So it's one of those aspects that, sure, detailers, you can actually talk to the detailers and we can take that into consideration. But as detailers, we're the seller's advocate first. So even if we know a command really needs a body and they really want experience, sure, that's fine. But my seller's telling me they're not trying to go to Lemoore. My seller's telling me they don't want to go to Whitby or Cali. So if I have Lemoore and Jacksonville up there and they're picking Jacksonville, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pick them to Jacksonville unless that billet is populated as a top fill, must fill billet. That seller's in their third look, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to get that must fill billet.
Hey, Sean, I want you to get all that out, man, because I just got the Lemoore like 2 weeks ago. So I want you
I saw the last episode. Because you said you haven't had the cow smell or nothing yet.
Hey, it ain't just me, guys. It ain't just us, man. Everybody heard the rumors about Lemoore, man. So, hey, it is what it is.
And everybody's like, nope.
I've never been stationed in Lemoore, but I did, I don't know if it was maintenance control school or if I went to QA admin school in Lemoore, but I did a 2-week class in Lemoore, and not gonna lie, when I got there, I was like, I can see why people don't want to be here. Just me personally. But I have a detailer in the shop right now. He would sell Lemoore to anybody. He absolutely loves Lemoore. You know what I'm saying? So
really?
it's some sell. It depends on who you talk to and what they're into. Some people love it. Some people, like most people, be like, nah.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear that California is no longer one of those billets, that top desirable billets, because of the cost of living. I mean, I know it's expensive out here, but I didn't know that people were like, nah, I don't want to go there because it's so expensive.
If they had a choice between East Coast and West Coast, Cali is generally not on their top pick. If they see that, okay, West Coast is what it's looking like for them, then out of the choices in West Coast, then I would say San Diego is the top pick for most people. But in general, Cali hasn't been, like on my detailing aspect, Cali's not been the most desired for most people. Some people still want it, especially if they have family out there and they're established out there. But majority of the people I detail want either Jacksonville, Florida, or Fort Worth, Texas.
So I think it was last episode, maybe. I was trying to look back through the notes to see. Someone mentioned, I think it was Damo, he said that most sailors don't pick during their first look. How does that affect a sailor? Like, is that okay? Like, does it not really matter?
Yeah.
What are they doing to themselves when they do that? I tell
sailors all the time, we encourage sailors to apply. Because when it comes to, let's say, their third look or beyond, when they're trying to flag their records for separation and go into the full power Navy aspect, that's where the application trying to apply in each look helps sailors to really get what they want in the long term. But I tell sailors all the time, if you don't want something, absolutely don't want something, then don't apply. It doesn't negatively affect the sailor, or it doesn't give us a scoring criteria that, oh, this sailor didn't apply in their first look, so I'm not even going to consider them for a billet when they're in their second look. So it makes us no difference. We want sailors to apply to the billets that they actually are willing to go to.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
So I was a first class and I was picking orders and I picked CTF 76 Okinawa. I didn't really want to go. I didn't want to go. But someone was like, oh, you need to fill up all 5. Otherwise, you know, they gonna make you go somewhere you don't want to go. You're gonna end up in Lemoore. So even though I didn't want to go to Japan at all at that time, I still, it just wasn't right for my family dynamic at the time. My then husband was in nursing school. We had kids. And so it was a sea duty billet. So I was like, I'm not really trying to do that right now. That would like really just mess things up. And so I just put it as like number 5 so that I could fill that last spot because LNs, we don't get a whole lot of choices anyways. Yeah. Ours is usually like only a few that comes out. And so I put it on there. I was probably the only one that put it on there because I got selected for that juncture.
I will say that's why I got
selected. And the first thing that I did was Right. They were like, no, you need to put something in that number 5 spot. And I was like, I don't want to go there though. Like, you need to put something in that number 5 spot. I put it in there and that's exactly where my ass went. But hindsight, like, that was my favorite tour, actually. And that was a tour that helped me to make Chief. Like, I didn't make Chief at that tour. It was when I left that tour that I made Chief. So I'm glad I did put it on there. But yeah, I was told like, you got to fill up all 5 and I did not want to go. So if he's saying, if you really don't want to go, don't put it down there. Don't let nobody tell you nothing different. It worked out for me, but it may not work out for you. You could end up in Lemoore.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know about old detailing policies if they were, if there was a consideration for sailors that if they didn't apply in their first look or if they didn't apply to anything, that it will be counted negatively against them. But I know for current policies, that's not a thing. If sailors don't want to apply, then they just roll into their next look. So, I mean, I actually tell sailors, if you don't want that billet, then don't apply because 9 times out of 10, if you're the only applicant on that billet and nobody else applied to it, you have a very high chance of being selected because your application is telling us that that's something that you're willing to take. So,
Speaking of right. let's talk a little bit about needs. Let's talk a little bit about needs of the Navy.
Okay.
Right. How is that against their preference? So they come down, they don't get selected. They're in their 3rd or 4th look right now. So they're in their needs of the Navy right now, but they still put in their own preferences or whatever right now. Have they pretty much kind of like, it's you finna get selected regardless right now, right? It's happening.
So you get now, and this recently changed, to be honest with you. I think this changed like 3 or 4 cycles ago, where sailors now get their full 3 looks. They can apply in their 1st and 2nd look, but once you get to your 3rd look, even if you don't apply, you will get selected to a billet. So your needs of the Navy in your 3rd look. So even if sailors don't apply, we first look at their preferences. And this is why we also tell sailors that you need to make sure, especially if you're going into your negotiation window, make sure your preferences and your M&A profile are up to date. Because if at one point you were willing to go to Lemoore and after you heard about Lemoore, you're not willing to go there anymore, but your preferences still reflect Lemoore and you choose not to apply to a billet in your 3rd look, and Lemoore happens to be a choice out of all the choices that are up there, we might select you we'll select you to Lemoore because that's what your preferences reflect. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that those reflect. But if let's say out of the billets that are open in your 3rd look, none of those preferences match what you really want, then we would have to essentially treat it as if every applicant applied to that billet and pick the best and fully qualified person for that specific billet. And then we just add what's called an ATI indicator, which is a record flag stating that the member was applied to this billet that did not meet 2 or 3 preferences in their profile.
Okay. Hey, to me, I'm going to tell you right now, go ahead, sailors. Don't pick them. It's easy. You're making my job easier. You know what I mean? You're making it a little bit easier for me right now. I'm clicking them.
What's crazy is because what sailors are doing now, they're doing that on purpose, on hopes to get into the full power Navy aspect. And full power Navy is in place. It is a retention tool for sailors to essentially get what they want, but there are other criteria they have to meet beforehand, and choosing not to apply at all on hopes that they will fall into that aspect to just get what they want is a dangerous game to play, because you may still end up not getting what you want, or you end up getting something worse than what was available in the first place.
Okay, I had a question about that. I'm glad you brought it up. So if you guys don't know, this was called a P-33, right? So, but it is the full power Navy, right? So my question is, what part does a detailer play in the full power Navy? So yeah.
Yeah, full power Navy is a completely separate department. Ironically, they literally sit right next to me. So like that whole department sits right next to me. So it's a completely separate department. They don't fall under us at all. So it's a separate detailing process, and full power actually has a little more pull when it comes to what billets they can offer sailors, because their focus is on retention. So they go through our process, the actual normal detailing process, when they're in the negotiation window. And then if they meet criteria after that, that's where full power will pick them up.
Okay. And you know what? That makes sense too, though, man. So for all the sailors and all the listeners out there, that makes sense, man. Like, it's a whole different department, a whole different team that's handling those sailors. So I think that's a good deal too, because I can look at it as being a detail and be like, oh, now here we go. Right? You know what I mean? Like, now they done waited this out. So I'm glad they got that separated. I think that's a great deal for everybody.
It's kind of a love-hate relationship with detailers, because detailers can only negotiate and offer sailors based on what's available in M&A currently. And a lot of times the open billets the sailors will call us and say, well, I see these open billets, but the one I really want is the very bottom closed billet, which those closed billets are listed in order of priority from top to bottom. So you want the very bottom billet, which is the lowest priority. And I tell sailors, like, the chances of you even getting that billet as an option during your negotiation window is depending on who it is, because some rates are bigger than others. But for like my smaller rates in the TAR community, like my PRs and AMEs, if there's 20 billets on the board and you want that bottom billet, the chance of you getting it is very slim, because I don't have that many in the negotiation window at any given time. But they get into the full power aspect, and then they're able to get those billets. So it's a love-hate relationship with us in full power, because if sailors don't know the true process of detailing, it can make it seem like detailers are lying to them, or that detailers aren't telling them the complete truth about what's available to them. But because full power Navy actually has detailers, they're like, well, this detailer was able to hook me up, but my actual detailer wasn't able to hook me up. And then that's not the case at all. It's just a completely separate process.
Oh, wow. That's a different way of thinking about it now, man, since you bring it up like that. Yeah. So to me, listening to that right there, that let me know that a sailor's probably going away if they don't get what they want. If they found a billet that's on there, they probably going to try to hold out long as they can, and probably be hitting up full power Navy the whole time. Right? Like, every billet, I didn't get what I want. This is what I want. They probably already negotiating and probably bypassing their own detailer.
It's happening. It's happening live. But it's only gonna last but so long, because at some point those most desired billets are going to be filled. And then all that's going to be left are the billets that nobody wants. And then the sailors that don't meet the full power criteria, the sailors that don't have the ability to play the game of, I'm separating, so I'm going to wait till full power picks this up, those sailors are going to be stuck with all the billets that nobody wants. And then they're going to get upset with detailers saying, well, I saw Jacksonville on the board. I was hoping for this billet, and now Jacksonville is not on the board. This sailor got selected, just so happened, because sailors talk. This sailor got selected to that. So you're playing favoritism, not realizing that it wasn't the detailer at all. This was a process in place to retain sailors, and some sailors are going to, timing wise, it's going to work in their favor, and some sailors, timing wise, it's not going to work in their favor. So it's a retaining tool. I get the process, I get the point of it, but that's why I say it's a love-hate relationship between detailers and full power Navy.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, in a way, I kind of agree with it a little bit. We trying to get sailors where they want to go. We trying to keep sailors in the Navy, so I kind of see where it's going. But you're right though. It's gonna come to a halt real soon though. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Tish.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask if you could talk about the EFM program and how that benefits a sailor when it comes to detailing, and how should they go about getting orders? Like, is it the same as everybody else?
Yes. So now the process with the recent change of categories going away, sailors get to be able to apply just like anybody else. So before, with categories, the policy actually outlines, depending on what category they were in, let's say a category 4 sailor, the policy specifically outlined these are the only locations those category 4 sailors can go to. Whereas now, even if you are previous category 4 sailor, because categories went away, you can still apply to any billet that's on the board. If you're doing so, the detailer would then contact the EFM coordinator to see if there's care available for that sailor. They're not going to tell us what type of care or what's wrong with the sailor, because that is HIPAA. But we do take that due diligence before we actually select the sailor to see if there's care available. And if not, we'll contact the sailor to try to let them know that, hey, the billet you apply to, there's no care available for you in that area. Which other billet do you want? You know what I'm saying? That's a conversation that we have, because, I mean, we could also not do that aspect, but then it's just going to create extra legwork in the long run, because if we select a sailor that there's no care available for them, as soon as we write their orders, once it gets to the EFM desk for CHOP, they're just going to kick it back and say there's no care available. So we generally try to call ahead and just kind of, have that extra step to where if we can offer a sailor a different billet that they want, we will do so. But the process is really no different than any seller that's not an EFM, except at times they could be limited on where they can go based on the type of care that's needed for them.
Is it safe to say that if someone picks a location and they have an exceptional family member and they know that there is care in that area, are they almost guaranteed to get that billet?
Most of the time, I would say it's community dependent. And it also depends on what look stage they're in. But most of the time, yes. Most of the time, yes. If there are other options available, like for instance, for my community, because my community is so small on the AMEs and PR side, AT is a little bit bigger, but TAR in general, the community is so small. Majority of the time, the EFM sailor is going to be the priority, because there are already so limited billets available for us in general. But in a community where there are much more billets available, then it could be different, and the guarantee aspect is a lot less than a smaller community. So I would say it's more community dependent on that.
Hey, with that though, did it benefit? I think it helped. Did it help detailing when the categories went away?
Because it did in some aspects, because and some sailors would call, especially if they're EFM, they were like, they'll see an opportunity or a specific location that they really want to go to. But because they're a specific EFM category, it's like, hey, it limited us to send them to those locations because of the EFM. But because there is more care available now and the actual categories don't limit us to specific locations anymore, in some aspects, it helps the sailors, but in other aspects, it pisses sailors off, because a lot of sailors that were in those higher categories generally were in those highly desired locations. So when they get to those negotiation windows, they're, upset because they can't spend their entire career in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah. But hey, Sean, I look at it differently, right? I look at it as now you know where you can go and can't go. So when you go to negotiate with the detailer or whoever you put you in and go to My Navy assignment, you already know, what your needs are and where you can go already. So you shouldn't be picking a billet that you know you can't get because you don't have.
Shouldn't be.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Shouldn't be. Yeah, I'm tracking.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, I haven't had too many issues regarding EFM sellers picking orders or trying to go places that they can't go and trying to, work the system in that aspect. So, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure there are some out there that are like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, or I do want to do this and I can't. But it depends on the community and depends on the person.
Yeah. So, hey, Sean, I got to ask the question for the sailors, man. Right? I got to ask the question for the sailors. Hey, communication with detailers. Hey, man, do them details. Do them details.
Don't ever pick up the phone.
Man, what's going? Hey, everybody. Every time the sailors go, I say, man, you call your detailer. Yeah, ain't nobody answer. Next day you call your detailer, ain't nobody answer. So I mean, like, what's going on? Tell the people. Is that just a rumor, or what's going on?
No, it's not. It's not a rumor at all. That is fact. I tell sailors this: not all detailers are created equal. Take that as you may. Not all detailers are created equal. However, some details, I don't think sailors realize how many people some detailers actually detail. So for me, because I'm in the TAR community is very small, so I detail 3 rates, E1 through E7, AMEs, PRs, and TARs. AMEs, PRs, and ATs, right, in the TAR community. So out of those 3 rates, that equates to just under 600 people. Whereas I can go into the active duty side and talk to an active duty AT1 or AT2 detailer, and he has 800 people or even thousands of people under their detailing scope. Yeah. So the amount of people that are going into the negotiation window at any given time, or the amount of people that have questions, imagine the amount of phone calls that we get a day.
Mm-hmm.
It will disenfranchise the sailor. It will be unfair to the sailor if I'm on the phone and every time a sailor calls, I'm telling them, hey, hold on real quick. So I let the phone ring. That's where we have voicemails. I tell sailors, if you're going to call, leave a voicemail, a detailed voicemail. You know what I'm saying? That prompts us to let us know, hey, this sailor has this need, this sailor has that. We're going to call this sailor back. I'm not going to sift through my caller ID through 60 missed calls and call every single number back. Because we do have caller ID, but we're not going to sift through the call ID and do that. If you're going to leave a voicemail, that prompts us to call you back. Now, some detailers will call you back if you didn't leave a voicemail. But for those that have a lot of phone calls, they won't call you back. But some detailers won't check their voicemails. It's unfortunate, but this is where sailors can utilize their emails. And I tell sailors, email the detailer. Put your chain of command on that email. Send a read receipt to show that the detailer did see your email when they opened it, to where if you're trying to advocate for yourself or say that, look, you've been trying to reach the detailer and nobody's been picking up, you can at least say they read my email. You know what I'm saying? There's other means that you can do. There's surveys you can submit. There's congressionals that you can submit. I mean, you can take it that route, but that's not a rumor. It's some detailers, just unfortunately just won't answer their phone. I mean, I don't really put out.
Hey, so I found it, for me anyway, it was better for the emails. Right? Because what I do know as leaders, and what we always know, time we get to work, what do? We log it into the computer, right? We checking our emails or whatever. So that's kind of one of the things that I thought it worked better for me anyway. But I know it's frustrating for sailors, man. They want information right now, right? They don't want to wait. So they get a little bit frustrated. They shoot stuff up their chain of command because they want answers right now. But at the same time, I think you hit it on the head, man. Shoot an email, and most of the time, man, I got hit back on that email. Right. So
emails, I mean, sometimes, especially depending on the type of questions the sailors have, it's easier to have a phone conversation with them because the amount of information or variables based on the questions they have could be, many different variables. So it's a lot easier to just have that one-to-one conversation over the phone. But yeah, email is probably the best form of communication with your detailer. And personally, I prefer emails anyways, because sometimes sailors will revert on what they said and will try to say, well, I never said this. I never wanted this. And it's like, no, you clearly said you wanted it. So yeah, emails is probably the best form of communication. I agree with
you. When it comes to seashore rotation and detailing, if a sailor is up for sea and they're picking all shore, what's going to happen?
Are they coming from shore, or they put in a back-to-back sea request?
Let's say they're on shore duty and they're up for sea. Let's do that scenario first.
So if they're on shore duty and they're up for sea, you're going to apply for sea duty. Shore to shore,
what if they are applying for shore duty?
9 times out of 10, they won't get selected.
Sure.
Unless, so some rates are very shore dependent. So if there is a need for shore talent, if there's a need for, because shore duty is just as important as sea duty. That's just my opinion, because shore duty does play a part in the overall mission. So if we're short on the shore duty side, then yeah, there are times when we're willing to entertain sailors going back to back shore. But in a general sense, if you're on shore duty, you're going to sea duty. And you can apply. M&A is not going to stop you from physically applying, being able to apply. But when we do our selections, we know where you're coming from. If you're at a short command and there are valid sea duty billets available, you won't be selected to that billet.
Yeah. And is it the same if a sailor's at sea duty and they want to go back to, like, you have some people out there that just love being out to sea. Hey, they just want to go back to back sea.
17 and a half years I did back to back sea. Detailing is my first shore gig. Well, so for me being tar, I've been on type 2 sea duty. I ain't never been on no ship. I know the comments about to go crazy on that. I ain't never been on a ship, but I've been at squadrons my entire career. You know what I'm saying? Type 2 sea duty. I've done deployments. I've done detachment, things of that nature. So for me, I love it because I joined the Navy because I want to travel. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to see parts of the world that I've never been able to see, or probably would have never been able to see if I wouldn't have joined. So I love sea duty. But for sailors, if they're currently on sea duty and they want to do sea duty, then they have to submit a 1306 requesting back-to-back sea with between 9 and 15 months of their PRD.
Okay. I just had a question. Dang, I lost my question.
Hey, Sean, what are some common mistakes that junior sailors make when dealing with the detailer?
Choosing not to communicate at all. No forms of communication, not updating their M&A profiles, especially their preferences, like mentioned before, like they get into their third look and life happens, their preferences change. And if we have to detail them per needs of the Navy, the preferences is one of the first things we look at. But yeah, I would say not communicating with their detailer, probably being the biggest one. Allowing other people to influence their career decisions is probably my biggest mistake that sailors make, because a lot of times sailors who've never served at a specific command or never lived in a specific area will list. Obviously, they'll try to get advice from people and try to say, hey, have you lived here? What's your experience? And you always have those people who don't know how to explain or give full context on their perspective or their experiences in certain situations. So it leaves out the aspect of what really happened or what it's really like. So somebody, like, I'm gonna use myself for an example. I was, for my third duty station, I got orders to New Orleans and I was coming from Cali. And when I told one of my leaders at the time, I'm like, hey, he was asking me, where'd you get orders to? I was like, I got orders to VR-55 VR-54 in New Orleans. He was like, oh, you're going to hate it there. I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, New Orleans is trash. New Orleans is dirty. New Orleans is this. New Orleans is that. There's nothing to do. And I initially took that in like, I'm going to hate New Orleans. Like, that's literally my mindset. That's what when I went to New Orleans, I'm driving, I'm being bitter about it because I'm going to hate New Orleans. And when I tell you, that was probably one of my best duty stations. I had a blast. New Orleans is an amazing city. It obviously depends on who you are and what you're into, but New Orleans is an amazing city. Bourbon Street is not the aspect that was great about New Orleans because that's what most people associate with New Orleans. But the point is, a lot of people will take other people's experiences and use that as a means to define what their career path is. And I think the biggest mistake is not going for what you actually want to do for your own goals, and you will allow others to influence your career path. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, we understand that too, though. Especially when it comes to, influences and mentors and things like that. We try to, as leaders, guide sailors in the right path and stuff like that. But I've never been one of those people, like, unless I went somewhere that I knew I was like, I tell them my experience. I don't tell them where to go. Like for example, for me, Washington State, I'm not a fan, right? But I don't tell people I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because of, though, right? I'm not a fan because of the weather. It rains a lot. It's, those things. You can like that and be like, oh shit, it's pretty though. Nice green, you can go hiking, you can go do all these things. But for me, it don't work for me though, right? Because I'm trying to be outside, I'm trying to do all this stuff. So that to me don't work for me. So I get what you're saying. And that's all about it too though, man. Like, you're right. We are young sailors, or, they looking up to us to find out what we saying and how we talk to sailors means something. Like, you know what I mean? It means words matter. So we have to be careful, especially like you said before, a sailor even get to the billet. They already like, thinking about, oh, this is going to be trash. This ain't going to be this, ain't going to be that. We can't do it like that though,
But that's why I said that rolls right into the communication aspect. Because we're the seller's advocate, believe it or not, I know a lot of people feel like we're not, because we didn't get them what they want. And I ask sellers all the time, well, what is your definition of advocacy? Advocacy doesn't mean you're going to get what you want all the time. Advocacy can be something that, hey, I'm getting you something that's best for your career. I'm getting something that's going to progress you. I'm going to get you something that's going to help you in your ladder to achieve certain steps to help you advance in the long run. That's what advocacy can look like. But a lot of people think that advocacy means, oh, I want this, so my detailer is going to get me that. And if he can't get me that, then he's not advocating for me. But we can only advocate for you. We can only help you if you communicate with us. We don't know what we don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the detailers come in. If a seller legitimately has family issues, if a seller legitimately has issues like a sick parent or something like that, we can actually guide them in the right direction as far as, hey, have you thought about submitting a HUMS package? Have you thought about, going officer if that's your career path and if that's what you're trying to do, have you thought about these aspects? Because believe it or not, some leadership just does not inform sailors as much as other leadership does. And and it baffles me sometimes how much sailors don't know. And they come to us, and when they do talk to us and we ask them those questions, they're like, I had no clue this was even an option. You know what I'm saying? So we can advocate for them in that aspect. So if you don't communicate with us, or you choose not to communicate with us because you're going off of the rumors that detailers don't care, or detailers are only going to hook their fellow people that they know of, or because he's a chief, he's only going to look out for his fellow chief. If you want to go off that hype, then you're just disenfranchising yourself.
Right. I love that you mentioned HUMS. If you can do me a solid and just talk to the listeners about HUMS, because that is one of the programs that I feel like not enough people know about.
HUMS is so a lot of times you will get sailors that have sick family members. Or they have a sick parent, or their spouse has cancer, or you name it. HUMS allows people that have specific type of hardships. Obviously, I don't know the full criteria of everything that applies to or is considered under HUMS. But when sailors have those type of situations, they can submit what's called a HUMS package to be considered to possibly get those sailors stationed in those locations for a temporary time, which is determined at the board that they do before they determine, how long your orders will be for and whatnot. But those sailors, let's say if you have a sailor that you'll have a sick family member that's in New Jersey, and you're like, you know what, I will never be able to go to New Jersey just because my rate doesn't take me there. There's no base there. There's this, that, and the third. But you fall under a HUMS criteria and you're able to, meet that threshold, then HUMS can get you to that location for a temporary amount of time to be able to help take care of that family member, to be able to help alleviate some of that hardship that you have for that specific amount of time. So we do recommend that sellers put in those HUMS packages just to see if they qualify, if they have those type of hardships.
Yeah, I actually did a HUMS tour myself, and it was very helpful for my situation. I was actually, when everything happened with my family member, I was in my window picking orders, and I was up for C duty, and I wanted to go to C duty, and but going to C duty especially I was a single parent. Let me rephrase that, because I don't really consider myself a single parent. I was single. I was a single status, but I had a co-parent, very active co-parent, but he was a civilian. But it really helped me to stay in the location. Like, we had just got like care established and all that stuff. So moving to a different location would have really it would have been detrimental for my son, even though it would have been great for my career to go to sea duty and that's what I wanted and everything like that. It would have been detrimental for my son. So did a HUMS package, and it got approved, and I was able to get shore duty orders in the location that I needed it in, so that I could continue care for my son. And then once that was over, I was, back up for orders. And so it was great. So if anyone has that type of situation, you have any questions, there's a meal PERS man for everything. So look up the meal PERS man, see if it's something that, might help you out. The Navy has different, we talked about EFM, and then there's HUMS. The Navy does look out for your family. Don't think that just because you're going through something, that there may be something in place you just don't know.
Hey Tish, real quick.
I was going to ask.
Hey, real quick for Sean. You just talked about those programs, but you also I was looking at your TikToks, man, and you talked also about family members relocation, not just immediate family. That's something that I didn't even know. And I've been doing this thing for a hot minute. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Crazy thing is, I didn't even know about it until I became a detailer. All I thought when it came to co-location in general, I thought it was just spouse co-location. Like that. That's the only thing that I knew. I was like mill to mill. But there's actually 3 co-location aspects of the detailing process. So you have your mill to mill spouse co-location, you have your child custody co-location, and you also have the immediate family member co-location. So the immediate family member is, son, father, daughter, sister, brother of whole blood, half blood, or even adoption. So if you have members, they have to be Navy, because that's one of the aspects I wish I would have covered under my TikTok. That, I've gotten questions like, what if I have a brother that's in the Marines? Unfortunately, for the immediate family member, it has to be Navy to Navy. But yeah, that is one of the co-location options out there. The child custody co-location, that can be, and that's one of the aspects that blew my mind, because the custody aspect doesn't have to be with another military member. If that military member has a custody agreement, a legal custody agreement, 50-50 with a civilian, they can co-locate to that location if there's billets available. All right. And then obviously your mill-to-mill spouse co-location. So yeah, those aspects I didn't know about that until recently for the immediate family member one.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good. That's good information. What you got, Tish?
For sailors who have kids, and I know a lot of times you try to move in between those schools. Like, I don't want to take my kid out of school, so I'm trying to PCS during this time, and they try to work with the detailer on either staying on board longer, but most of the time they want to leave early or something like that. How is that even a thing?
So there is a such thing as high school stabilization for members that have high school seniors. If they're PRD, don't quote me. I need to look at the instruction, but there is a high school stabilization option for sailors who have kids that are going into their junior year and approaching their senior year. And if those timelines are within their PRD, or if it's outside of their PRD, they can possibly extend or be reassigned to another billet in that local area for that high school stabilization. But as far as the moving aspect, that's just a simple communication with a detailer. And we do work with sailors that have children if they don't want to move or PCS within a specific time frame because they want the child to finish school, and you name it. But it also depends on the billet that they're going to, because let's say they're going to an operational command that's about to deploy. And at times, there's case by case when we may not be able to accommodate, but for the most part, we will try to work with the seller to where the PCS move is the least inconvenient as possible.
Yeah. So what if you have a sailor who, I'll just give a scenario, like a sailor just had a child and they're up for sea. They're coming off of their shore duty, from having their baby. Now it's time for them to go to sea. They want to go to a duty station that's close to their family so that they have that support, because they feel like if they go anywhere else, if I go to Virginia, I don't know nobody in Virginia. If you send me, wherever, Mississippi, I don't know nobody down there. So I want to get to, this particular place because that's where I will have family support. How difficult is that for a detailer to work out for a sailor?
It depends. So if there's we don't control the billets that are advertised. So I don't think, PERS 4013, which is your placement coordinators, they don't know that this person just had a child. They're going to populate billets based on the priorities. So if there's a billet available for them in that location, then we can consider that during our selections, but that's not always a guarantee. So it can make it very difficult at times, or to even have those conversations with sellers, because detailers can only control what they can control. And if there's no billets available, and let's say a seller is trying to avoid going West Coast because they don't have any support over there, but that's all the billets that are populated open, we really don't have any control in that aspect.
So what do you usually say to that sailor? Or how does that conversation look? Because I'm pretty sure it's some people out there who do that tough conversation.
It's just explaining the process to the seller. It's allowing them to see that, this is the detailing process, this is the control, and this is how billets are populated. And needs of the Navy a lot of times determine what billets need to be filled first. And, the biggest part is empathizing and being understanding. And showing that human side with that seller, and just letting them know that, look, I understand this can be a tough time, and we will try to accommodate the best we can. But as far as a specific billet populating for them, if they're trying to stay East Coast, if there's no billet there for them, then we really don't have much to work with. So we will try to say, okay, well, since East Coast is not going to be an option, based on the billets that are populating on the West Coast, what will be your preference in that regard? I mean, sometimes you do get sellers that are like, well, I don't want to go West Coast. I don't care where you send me. Just don't send me West Coast. I'm like, well, that's all we have. You know what I'm saying? That's all that's on the board. And, it's just a tough conversation. It's sometimes there's really no explanation or helping that seller to cope with the fact that, hey, you're about to go West Coast. But I think a lot of past situations I've had, just explaining the process and being transparent with the seller has helped out a lot, and sellers tend to come around.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, I'm with you with that, man. That's 100% it, man. Explaining the situation, being transparent, let them know what's going on. Because sometimes sailors, and we all know this, we are locked in on me. I'm locked in on what I got going on, not understanding that you may have 1,000 other sailors, right? You know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. So I think when you explain everything, it does. I mean, they're going to be pissed off. I mean, it is what it is. But I think they come around a little bit better once that happens. And you kind of throw something in there, man, like when sailors don't get what they want. And I get this question for Sean real quick. When sailors don't get what they want, they're going to throw out these retirement. They're going to throw out, hey, I'm getting out, and they all this type of stuff, right? How do you guys handle those conversations? Because I know it happens all the time. I know
it happens a lot. And to be honest with you, and I've even made TikToks on this, and people go crazy in the comments about it. But I tell sellers this: I don't ever advocate for sellers to stay Navy. If you want to separate, if you feel like, you know what, I don't like what I see on my Navy assignment, and if you can't get me what I want, I'm going to separate. If I can get $1 for every time I've heard that, I will probably be rich right now. And because we hear it so often, we kind of turn numb to those type of comments. You know what I'm saying? Because, okay, if you want to separate, I'm not a recruiter. We don't operate off of a quota-based system to where if we don't fill the billet, that we take a hit on not filling the billet. If you don't want to take the billet, I encourage you. If you're going to say you're going to separate, I encourage you. Do what's best for you. Because at the end of the day, that's your life. If you think that, you know what, based on what's available, timing wise, it's just not working out for me. And based on what I've achieved or where I'm at currently in my lifestyle, I can't physically support going to this specific location. So it's best for me to separate. Okay, then do that. Just make sure you have a plan. I always tell people, make sure you have a plan. However, a lot of sailors will use that as a negotiation tactic, or they feel that based on the rumors they've heard, that if I tell my detailer that I'm going to separate, or I'm going to tell my detailer if I don't get this, I'm going to retire or whatnot, that detailers are magically going to say, oh, wait, there's this hidden billet that we have, you know what I'm saying, to try to retain you. And that's not how the detailing process works at all, especially nowadays. So we hear it a lot. But at the same time, we do try to, in a sense, ask them like, okay, well, if you're planning to separate, what's your reasoning behind it? What if they're early in their look stage, we'll let them know like, okay, you're only in your first look. Let's see before you decide to, you know, oh, I'm gonna separate, I'm gonna put in my retirement. Let's go through your second look. Let's go to your third look to see what populates, because everything that we're talking about is based on the right now. There's always a potential for a billet that's the lowest priority to now be the top priority for whatever reason. We don't control the billets. So something could populate in your second look that you may want. Something could populate in your third look. So in that aspect, we'll encourage them to like hold off before you do that. But if it gets to the third look and they're like, look, I want to separate, then okay, by all means, do what you got to do. Submit your page 13s, letting us know that you want to separate so we can get your records flagged, or submit your retirement. Like it's really, there's really no begging involved, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's pretty tough now, man, when it comes to detailing and everything, man. I think mostly it comes from the billets available and things like that. Like you said, man, a lot of these billets are getting filled now too, with it, especially from the active duty side. A lot of these billets are getting filled because of BBA and because of the senior listed marketplace. So a lot of them getting filled. So now it's like they don't have a whole lot of billets that's out there, that's available, that's open for sailors. So those conversations have to be had now. And back to what we talking about the P-33 or, you know, full power Navy, like that's right now, it's becoming one of the biggest things in the Navy right now, man. If you want to talk anything about sailors going and locations and where they going and where they trying to go, these are the conversations that's being had now. Like if you go, like I'm coming to Millington probably in September sometime, right? I'm assuming those going to be the conversations that's going to probably be had. And all these symposiums, these are conversations that's being had right now because we want to keep sailors in, right?
Right.
We want to keep them in, but it is going to get to a point where like we're going to have to fill some of these hard billets. You know what I mean? Like everybody want what they want, right? Everybody do, but sometimes we got to bite the bullet. That's why we are giving them rank now for taking certain billets and doing things like that to ease the blow. You know what I mean? We try to
incentivize it. Yep.
Yeah. Incentivize it. Yeah.
Is it beneficial for a sailor to contact their detailer before they're actually in their window?
Yes. In majority of cases, yes. They kind of, obviously they may not be calculated as a roller, but to just establish that communication, establish that relationship, to kind of put it on the detailer's, you know, front mindset, saying that when they do start doing their calculations as far as, you know, our list, our trackers, as far as who's in their first look so far and so on, we can update our notes based on things that they talk to us about, because updating their resume or even their preferences in M&A can sometimes be very vague. So if sailors have actual situations that we can consider during the selection process, that early communication can sometimes help sailors out.
Got it. Another question. Why is it that sometimes you get your orders and like you're in the seat, but you don't have hard copy orders? And then when the hard copy orders finally do come, it's like short fuse, you got to go, you got to get your household goods done and all that stuff. What's up with that?
I'm actually in that same boat because I'm PCS in September, and I literally just got my hard copy orders 2 weeks ago. And people look at me crazy like, you're your own detailer. What? Like, you should have released your hard copy.
Can't you just write your own orders?
Can't you just write your own? Yeah, they say the same thing. So what people don't realize is detailers don't release hard copy orders. We write them and reroute them. That's it. Once we write the orders, it goes through a chop chain. All right. Once it goes to that chop chain, it goes to QA, and then it goes to the costing department. The costing department is what releases and who releases your hard copy orders based on the current release posture that is set. And that release posture is essentially your PCS funds that comes from the government. If there's no money, like right now in the TAR community, we have no money. So anybody that has orders that with a detached month of October or later is probably not going to have their hard copy orders yet because we don't have the PCS funds for it. So, and 9 times out of 10, especially during the towards the end of the fiscal year, that generally happens anyways, just because we run out of PCS funds. But in a general sense, sailors should expect to get their hard copy orders within 90 days of their detached month written into their orders. It's not based on their PRD, it's based on their detached month written into their orders. So, but it's all based on funding. If there's no money, you're probably not going to get your orders.
Nowhere.
Yeah,
right. You ain't going nowhere.
Hey, Sean,
what about?
Going?
Oh, sorry.
Back to Jacksonville, VP 62.
Oh, I thought you were finna say a little more.
Because you saw that TikTok. Oh man, no, I'm going back to Jax. The VP 62, going back to the VP world.
Yeah, man. Hey,
how difficult is it detailing mill to mill?
It can
as a
be
detailer.
It can be difficult if it's mill to mill of different branches because, it can be difficult in same branch as well, but definitely different branches like Marines, like a Navy person married to a Marine, person married to a Air Force person or whatnot, because their duty stations sometimes don't line up with ours. Maybe there's not valid billets available for our sailors in that location. So it can make co-location a lot more difficult for those sailors. Mill to mill for Navy sailors, depending on the type of rate, if they're married to an officer, it can be difficult at times, especially if there are no billets available for them.
Hey, one question also with the special programs. Once you look into the window and your sailor, do you advertise that as a detailer?
We don't advertise. Well, for my community, we don't advertise special programs.
Okay.
We'll send out a message like if there is a special program available. Like for instance, there was a special program billet available to be a placement coordinator for pre-com. They have a TAR billet over there. We essentially just send out a message saying that, hey, this is what they're looking for. This is the application process. And this is your point of contact who you need to submit your applications to. But the billet doesn't officially get advertised. It doesn't get advertised at all. It actually gets flipped for that specific sailor who they select.
Okay. And Sean, who detailed the detailer?
We have checks and balances in place. So like in our code, even though I'm an AME, so technically I'm my own detailer, but I don't write my own orders. I don't select myself to my own billet. My department head does that.
Nice. Okay. Checks and balances, baby. I like it.
Hey, I have questions about TAR, but I want to make sure, Damon, that you are ready to shift. Or that
I'm all over the place, man. So go ahead.
So tell the people what TAR is.
So TAR is the Training and the Administration of the Reserves, formerly known as FTS, full-time support. And that's what most people refer to it as. To me, it sounds better. FTS just rings better than TAR.
It does.
I came in 2005 when it was TAR, and then it changed to FTS, and then it changed back to TAR. But TAR is really no different than active duty. We fall under the reserve umbrella. If you look up our profiles will say reserves, but we're active duty. We get the same benefits as active duty. Seashore rotation is no different in active duty. Deployability is no different in active duty. Pay advancement is a little bit different because we fall under the reserve umbrella. Our advancement quotas and just our pool is separate from the active component. So our quotas are different in comparison to active duty. And we find out our results generally 2 to 3 weeks sooner than active duty. Like, for instance, the chief results for TAR and reserves came out last week or 2 weeks ago. Last week. And then like active duty is going to find out next week. So in that aspect, it's a little bit different. But as far as, because the rumors are that TAR sailors will never go on ships. TAR sailors can't be overseas. TAR sailors will be shore duty their entire career. And TAR sailors are only going to be at reserve centers. That is some of the biggest rumors out there. That's not the case. There are TAR commands, there are squadrons, there are deployable commands. There are ships that TAR sailors can go on, depending on your rate. Some rates are less likely to go on a ship or to be stationed on a ship. And then some rates are less likely to be stationed overseas. So like, for instance, me being aviation, there are no overseas billets for aviation at all. The furthest overseas you'll go is Hawaii. But everything is stateside. But we do have some TAR rates that do have overseas billets, like your BMs, your ITs and things of that nature. BMs also have shipboard billets. So it depends on the community, but there's really no difference. But our mission is to train the reserves. So when the true reservists that drill once a month or they actually come to those commands, our job is to train them on what we do.
So then the first time I met a FTS, what is it?
TAR.
No, what?
Full-time support or
Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute. The first time I met someone that was now called TAR, it was FTS at first. It was overseas at a shore duty. So you're saying that their primary duty is to support the reservist, right? Mm-hmm. To train the reservist. So the command that I was at, it was all active duty. He was the only TAR person. Was that to train him so that when he, because...
So I'm not sure what... I'm not sure what the billeting structure of that command is, because there are some active duty commands that have TAR sailors billeted to that command. Mm-hmm. So like, for instance, I think on the aviation side, like VP62, I'm going to VP62. They also have active duty air crewmen that are billeted at that command. There are some commands that are more active duty than TAR. So I don't know what the actual billeting structure is and why that TAR sailor was at that specific command. But in general, yes, TAR, that's what TAR is. It's to train those reserves. If there are no reserves at that command, then they're just doing their job just like any other sailor. And on those times when we're not training the reserves, we're no different than active duty. We're doing our jobs.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that this person in particular, Jeff Newell, holla at you. That's like my bro, but he, we have our preconceived notions of reservist, right? And we're like, they ain't gonna really, they don't act duty now. We're about to introduce you to real work. We're about to introduce you. You about to be struggling. Man, that dude was like top tier. He was on it, so don't underestimate those TAR FTS people. He was a real one.
That's the general conversation that, especially TAR sailors that are at commands where majority of the sailors there are active duty. TAR sailors feel like they're I'm not going to say mistreated, but they're an outcast. Or they're like one of the people that nobody really, they're just a reservist because that's what they feel like we are. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people look at us and like, y'all just reserves. And it's like, no, we're not. We're active duty, but we constantly have to explain ourselves and prove ourselves because they associate us with the regular reserves.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be honest with you, man. I've been in my rate, my old rate of a damage controlman, we had TAR sailors, FTS come on the ship. And I'm not going to lie, man. Like, I didn't even know there was FTS at all until we just having a conversation. We found out I had a DC Master Chief on a ship, and I did not know he was a He was an FTS the whole time. He's grinding. You know what I mean? Like I was doing an inspection on him. They out there, they grinding, they doing their thing. But like you said, once that's their job, though. They was building it for that job. So they was just doing their job. But we didn't know about it. I didn't even know the difference. And then I found out, man, it's a lot of FTS sailors on ships, you know, out there, man. So they doing their thing out there, man. Like you said, they're getting the same benefits now. They might as well be active, right?
Yeah. Well, benefits.
Speaking of that, though, is it a way they can go active?
Yes. So did we get that? Well, not often. We get more sailors that want to go tar from active, but I've had, I would say, my entire detailing tour, I had 2 sailors that wanted to go leave the tar community to go active, mainly because the tar community, that's another aspect of the tar community I would say is a con in some aspects, is because we are so limited on billet options. So if a sailor's trying to go tar and they're like, I really want to be stationed overseas, if they're an aviation rate, it won't happen because there are no overseas billets. But on the active component side, they can. So I've had sailors to go active duty or request to go active duty specifically for that aspect. So yeah, we do have sailors that request that. But I forgot what the question was. I just lost my train of thought.
No, we good. We're just talking about going from
sailors going from tar
to active duty.
Active to tar.
Yeah, so yeah, it does happen. We do. It's not often that it happens, but it does happen. But the process, that's what we were talking about. The process, they have to talk to the ACM. So the detailers only handle the actual detailing aspect of the conversion. The ECMs, which is your enlisted community managers, those are the ones that will let sailors know what their conversion opportunities are, and depending on what rate they are and their ASVAB scores and so far and so on, will let them know if they could even convert into a specific rate if they're trying to convert into, out of their current rate to another rate. But the ECMs are the ones that handle that aspect.
So if a sailor is active duty and you said that tar is very similar, what are the benefits from going from active duty to tar?
Smaller community. Depends on what rate they're going into. The less likeliness of being deployed or going to a ship. The less likeliness of being stationed overseas for those sailors that don't want to go overseas. In some aspects, advancement could be better. In some aspects, advancement could be worse, just because of the competitive nature of it and because the community is a lot smaller. So, advancement quotas can be very limited in that sense. So it's kind of a give and take depending on what community they're trying to get into.
Hey, Tish, you said the number one thing, not going on deployment, not being on ships. Man,
right?
Everybody gonna be calling.
I didn't say not going. I said less likely of going on a ship. Because even on the aviation side, you may not go overseas, but there are some commands, depending on what platform you go on, that will deploy on a ship. So
I got you.
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff, man.
But they gonna hear what they gonna hear.
Yeah, they definitely gonna hear what they're gonna hear. Like majority of the people that have called me about converting to tar, the first thing they will say is, well, I heard we don't ever deploy. I'm trying to convert tar because my chief told me that I'm only going to be at an NRC, or I'm going to be able to pick my duty station and be stationed in this location my entire career because we're only stationed at reserve centers. And it's like, who told you this? Like, what information are they gathering this, information from? And if they did gather this from somebody, did they get the full story of why that person was stationed at this location their entire career? So we get those calls a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick though, also in your just for detailing and also the tar, what's something they misunderstood? We as a Navy misunderstood about your rate, not your rate, but detailing and also the tar community.
We've already kind of hit the nail on the head that we're like reservists, that we're not deployable, that we're just shore based. We don't go on ships. So I would say that's the biggest misunderstood aspect of tar.
Okay.
And y'all have, y'all can go from enlisted to officer as well, right?
Yes. So it depends on so right now, TAR ISPP, there's the TAR in-service procurement program, is the only TAR officer program route right now that I'm aware of. But yeah, we can definitely apply to officer, but in some officer programs will require us to convert to active duty. Like if we, for chiefs trying to go warrant officer, there are no TAR warrant officers. So we would have to be active duty in that response. But yeah, we're eligible for those programs just like anybody else.
Okay.
Got it. Cool. That sounds like a deal. So being a detailer, y'all already super busy, and now we're about to go into chief season. We already talked about how everybody's saying y'all don't answer the phone. How do you balance chief season with the demanding duty of detailing?
It's a tough balance. The biggest thing is trying to make sure that when you come in the morning, you know what your events are of that day, that you prioritize what really needs to be done job-wise. And if it were, our job is our sailors, right? That's our focus. We're the sailors advocate first. So if that means that we can't go to a specific event for season because we're taking care of our sailor, then guess what? That's the priority.
Yeah.
So y'all sailors, don't be talking about y'all detailing not answering the phone. Cause
they still gonna say it. They still gonna say it.
The chief season. Oh, they all. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
They ain't detailing nobody. Don't expect no orders.
No, we still have our timelines. We still have our duties to do first. I mean, it does make it tough, especially for those that are leads of specific committees and stuff like that. It does make it tough for those people. But overtime is authorized.
Yeah.
100%, man. Hey, real quick, we kind of like transitioning, man. We didn't talked about detailing, we talked about TAR. So why Navy for you, Sean? Like, what's the background on that?
So initially,
your dad was Army, right?
My dad was in the Army. Initially, when I was actually in the DEP program for the Air Force, that's the branch I initially wanted to join. And when I was actually in the DEP program for 6 months before I switched over to the Navy. And the only reason why I did is because one of my dad's friends was a Navy recruiter. And he asked me, and he was like, hey, what are you going to be doing in the Air Force? And I can't remember the job title or whatnot, but it essentially equated to what an AME is in the Navy. And he was like, well, what if I can get you in the Navy with an enlistment bonus? And I heard money. You know what I'm saying? I was, 18 years old at the time. I was like, I heard money. I was like, sign me up. So that's kind of what guided me in the Navy route.
Nice, man. That's good stuff, man. What's some of your influences?
As far as what, the Navy influences?
Navy influence. What life influence? What something you got?
Well, my influences is mostly a personal drive to just be the best person I can be. Like my failures are my influence. Granted, I know I can't redo the failures that I've done in the past, but learning from those aspects and seeing that what your failures how those failures can affect other people, that's been my drive to essentially be the best version of myself and be the best person or be the person that I never had for me, whether it's in leadership or just in life in general. To be a good friend, to be a good boyfriend, spouse, you name it. That's my influence.
Good shit. Yeah. Self-driven, baby. I love it.
What made you decide to be a social media influencer?
To be honest, I wouldn't call myself an influencer. I always call myself a content creator.
I just threw it out there.
I consider myself a content creator. And it started back in 2018 when actually in YouTube, because I started on the YouTube side first before I even got to the TikTok side. And I was actually in the car scene. I was in a car club, and that's kind of what drove me into creating content, because watching people on YouTube and just seeing, I didn't even know that I was on YouTube for a long time as far as watching people. And then I realized people are actually making money off of this. Like people are actually getting paid to just show people what they're passionate about. So that's what kind of got me into that scene, to where I was like, okay, if I want to be able to let people know what I'm passionate about, and if it happens to make me money in the long term, then so be it. So that's kind of what started that process. And then the TikTok side.
What kind of content were you doing back then on YouTube?
It was car content. I still do it. It's just kind of taking a back seat right now, just because I don't really have the car content. So anything car related. So car shows, car meets, do-it-yourself projects, things of that nature.
I thought you were saying that you were one of those people that sit in the car and talk.
No. So that's more dipping into the vlog style. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of everything. So talking to people, vlogging, showing do-it-yourself type videos, walking around a car show, showing the new cars, things of that nature. So that's kind of what I was into. And still am into. Like I said, right now it's just kind of taking a back seat. But the TikTok side recently just kind of took off and I'm kind of riding that wave, because when I made a video about the detailing aspect, it went viral. So it just prompted me. I was like, let me see if this is an opportunity that I can explore, because in the car world, especially on YouTube, there's so many content creators doing the same thing. And it's hard to try to break out and be different, because there are so many people doing the same thing. Same thing on TikTok. There's a lot of people, you will see one person doing one trend, and then you'll see a million others doing the same type of trend. So in this scenario, I was like, let me see if there are other detailers on TikTok. Let me just see what kind of content they're doing, and realize that I couldn't find anybody. So I was like, well, I love the aspect when I have gone on detailer trips or even CDSs, being able to talk to those sellers and realizing how much misinformation there is in the fleet and how much lack of information there is in the fleet, especially in the detailing process and marketplace. I was like, let me use this as an opportunity to kind of spread information that I'm, number one, comfortable sharing. Number two, very versed on sharing, and being able to inform the fleet that way. And then kind of break it up with the funny shorts to kind of bring in people's attention, because people's attention span is short. So what draws attention? Either controversy, comedy, or drama. So I try to use those shorts to bring in the viewers, to where when I do post those videos that are very informative, people are more inclined to want to listen to what I have to say, because a lot of people, if the information doesn't apply to them, they'll just keep swiping. So that's why I'm kind of dabbling in that aspect right now.
Okay. And how easy is it to kind of get in trouble on social media?
It's being in the military and doing military content, it can be very easy. It's a very slippery slope, because a lot of stuff can be left for interpretation, and all it takes is for somebody to misinterpret or take what you're saying in a different way than what you meant it. And if you leave out context, and if you just leave it in the open like that, people can run with it and draw a narrative that you never even meant for it to be that. So yeah, it's a very slippery slope. But you just have to be mindful what you post. And if people do ask questions, just be professional. Don't try to argue with people. Or, if people are cursing you out like they do in my comments, some people will go in, you suck, and, you're a bad representation of the Chiefs mess, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, at the end of the day, I'll respond, but I'll respond in a way to either let them know that, look, you're making a fool of yourself, or I'll respond in a professional way saying that, hey, sorry you felt that way, but this is not how the current process is. So as long as you kind of control the narrative in some ways, or choose not to respond at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's a slippery slope. It's definitely a slippery slope.
What I like when our listeners get on somebody else, like they try to say something about us or whatever, then our listeners say, nah, that's not what they talking about. I love that right there, man. hey, you know what, Sean, since we got you here though, man, the new eval system just came out. What you think about it?
Man, I like it, but I feel like, I'm going to be careful how I say this.
I don't want to get in trouble with somebody else's platform.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Especially knowing where I'm at right now. I like the eval system. I just feel like I wish we would have had more time and training on the new eval before they made it official.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, because I feel like the timeline, you release the eval right around the timelines when we're submitting our evals anyways. And now some people are forced to implement an entirely new eval into an old standard that we're used to. And there's no guidance. There was nothing brought out initially saying this is what we're expecting. And especially for people that, they're doing stuff for boards and all that stuff. It's like, okay, how do I need to write my eval to speak to the board? How do I need to write my eval to really showcase what I'm doing? Because that's what aspect I do like about it, because it does really break down truth in reporting. You know what I'm saying? That I love that aspect of this eval. But for people that, aren't really good eval writers, I feel like it's not enough time for people to really focus on how to write those evals. And I feel like that initial push and those initial products are just not going to be the best they could be just due to that timeline. So I can dislike in that aspect.
Now, Sean, I heard you just say like not good eval writers, right? When I looked at this eval, and I could be off a little bit, I looked at it as you don't have to be that great at eval writing, right? Meaning like when I say, how we used to write up in there, had these nice little pretty words and all that stuff. Now it seems like it's straight for numbers, what you doing, how you doing it, and stuff like that. So I think for that portion of it, it made it a little bit easier. And also when we say truth in reporting, I love that too. If you 30 out of 30, you 30 out of 30, baby. You know what I mean? I love that. Like, ain't no like, okay, MPs are done. All the rest of the P's, just throw them in there. Nah.
Yep. I know exactly where you fall at.
Where you fall at. And that's what it is, man. That's how you know where you at, man. You know what you need to work on and all that stuff. So I like it too, though. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, the timing and all that stuff could be something there. It could have been maybe put out a little bit, later or whatever the case may be, or earlier. I mean, but I do like it though, man. I like where we going with it, man. Because now you have to explain what you're doing.
Yep.
Like you can't just throw that. I'm a 5-0 sailor right here. Nah, we're gonna find why you a 5-0 sailor.
Why exactly? Yeah, why?
So I do like that, man. Sean, man, I think. Hey, Tish, you got anything else?
When we talk about the relationship between a NC, Navy counselor, and a detailer, how does that work in sync?
Very important. It's a very important relationship because some sailors refuse to contact us. Some sailors are scared to contact us, just especially junior sailors. They're, it's a natural thing. It's okay if you're scared, but your NC could be your first step of advocacy for you to speak on your behalf. And your NC is also one of the key steps in making sure that you're prepared and informed before you get to the detailing process. So if the NC isn't aware or up to date on current detailing processes and policies, then how can NCs accurately do CDBs or sit in on CDBs and provide advice? You know what I'm saying? So in that aspect, it's very important.
Yeah.
Nice.
Talk to your NCs, people. Talk to your NCs.
Yeah. That's very good information, man. So we also do this thing about on here. We always talk about do betters, right? Is it anything you got for our do better segment about? It could be Navy related, it could be not Navy related. Anything you think that the Navy could do better or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the Navy, and this is going to cause a controversial conversation or could cause it, but I think the Navy needs to do better in holding people accountable.
Yeah.
Point blank, period.
Yeah, I mean, that's
accountability, in my opinion, accountability is one of the biggest issues, not just Navy, I'm going to say military-wide.
Yeah.
We need to do better in holding people accountable, including our own. That's leadership, not just junior sailors, because let's keep it all the way a buck. I'm a realist, right? So a lot of times we would, when it comes to our own or when it comes to higher ups, the treatment or the accountability aspect isn't the same when the situation is reversed and a junior sailor does the same exact thing. The junior sailor generally gets, the full book thrown at him, whereas the senior leader gets a slap on the wrist. And that's the real Navy. That's reality. That's some people may get in their feelings about it, but that's the truth. So without turning this into an accountability segment, but that's my do better. The Navy in general needs to do better at holding people accountable in all ranks.
100%.
And I would say that even like the process for senior enlisted and officers is so different, and it's almost like it's purposely like a hush type thing. A junior sailor, they get in trouble. Accountability comes just like that. Everybody kind of like, everybody knows what's going on. Like scuttlebutt is going on. You see them instantly demoted. But when it's a senior enlisted or officer, the process is so long and drawn out. It can be like 18 months before there's even a resolution. They're still getting paid at this time, right. It can come on the end and not be one. But at the same time, I've seen it where they do, or it's like a by the time they do get held accountable, everybody don't transfer.
Yeah.
So nobody sees it. Yep. Or they get transferred. And so the perception is they transferred this sailor away. Yep. And so it got swept under, but they're still going through their whole legal process. They just can't do that at that command anymore. So, I mean, it's a long, and I can see some of it, being an LN, I can see why some of it is the way it is, but then some of it is just unnecessarily long too, so I feel you.
Tish, my do better today, Sean, is Navy type 3s, man. These type 3s. I can't find them no damn where, man. Uniform shop, AFIS, Navy Exchange. I don't care who you are, where you at. I cannot find type 3s nowhere right now. They not even putting them on back order no more. They just say they ain't got them. You know what I mean? Like, they ain't got them right now. So Navy, we need to do better, man, with these type 3s, man. The expectation is you want sailors to be squared away. We need to have shit on the shelves for these sailors, man. So we need to do better.
Agreed.
Hey, Sean, we also do a book of the week. Do you got a book? I don't have a book this week. I'm sure Tish ain't got a book. Hey, Tish, you got to do better?
I can have one. So I can now. The Liberty Military Housing CEO, Philip Rizzo. So they came down on this dude about, housing, like, there was people having issues with housing and stuff like that. This dude came out and was like, listen, it ain't no different than the rest of the areas. Don't come looking at me. I was like, damn, this dude just he was like, nah, if you're going to look at me, you're going to look at everybody. Come on, dude. Just take your accountability and roll on with it. Just fix it to do better. You ain't got to point out everybody else. Come on, player. Yeah. That was a low blow.
Cop out.
Yeah. But Sean, you got a book that you want to put out? Anybody?
I'm not much of a reader, so no.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Not saying I don't need to read.
I agree.
But but hey, Sean, man, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Hopefully, guys, the sailors and our listeners got a lot of information that they probably didn't know. Hopefully cleared up a lot of rumors that's out there about detailing and the things that's going on behind the scenes. So I think we did that. And again, man, a couple things. One, sailors, update your shit. My Navy assignments, right? It means something. It's a good deal. Update your stuff. Hey, rumors, it's not no rumors, man. It is what it is, right? The other thing is, where can everybody find you?
They can find me, obviously, in the detailing marketplace. But if you're not on the detailing marketplace, you can find me on Instagram You can find me on TikTok, which is Certified Official, which is SRTFIED_official. And that's my main form of where you can find me at. My Facebook, I don't really give that out. That's more so for personals.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, and again, man, thank you for coming on, man. And we appreciate what you're doing too, man. Appreciate what you're doing. And keep growing and keep getting better, man.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me.
There's a lot of sailors there are a lot of sailors. Like when I came across your video, I was like, okay, now let me look at his other stuff. Cause I'm not really a social media person. I've kind of withdrawn from social media a lot since I retired, and I will kind of hop on and hop off. And so when I got on and I saw yours, I was like, oh, he got some good information. And so I started looking back at your other videos and I was like, oh, he got really good information on here. And he tar. I was like, what the hell is tar? I don't even know what that is, but I want to know what it is. so definitely keep, putting the information out there, because there's a lot of sailors who just don't know, or they, want to listen to the rumors and all of that stuff. Or, somebody told them that, detailers don't answer the phone and they just think that, all right, they ain't gonna call him no detailer because they're not gonna answer the phone. Listen, if you call him, he gonna answer the phone, guaranteed. If he don't, call us and let us know. No, I'm just
I'm gonna say this. I would say 95% of the sailors that have called me, I have answered the phone or I have called back, especially if they left the voicemail. I can say that. I probably missed a few, but majority of them I called back.
Nice.
That's dope.
All right,
That's dope. So keep doing it.
All right, team. Hey, holla at your boy, man. Hey, Mississippi Stand Up.